All right, good evening, gentlemen and lady. My name is Madeline Lake, or Woolhite, depending on how you know me. And today we're gonna talk about clowns. So who in here is scared of clowns in any way? Whether absolutely terrified or just like slight fear? Cool, so you're not?
Not at all.
We'll see how you feel at the end. All right, so we're gonna start out with talking about clowns, a history. It goes way back to 3000 BC, so for those of you that don't know how time works, BC is whenever we started counting down. So 3000 BC, 2999 BC, so on and so forth, and then we start counting up again in AC. So in 3000 BC in ancient Egypt, we used dongas to keep the royal court entertained, so this included pharaohs and any of their guests. Then in 2923 BC in ancient Greece and Rome, we used pantomimes, typically used in the theater for comedic intentions. This is similar to comedies now, except it was done in clown form. Next we have 1027 BC, which is in China, and they were used for entertainment for the dynasties. Again, same thing. They used them in the kingdoms to entertain the kings and queens and their families. In 947 BC in Rome, we start seeing different types of clowns begin emerging out of the theater. From 13 to 1600 AC, Chesters became very common during festivals, so this was during the time of the Renaissance. So there was a lot of music and theater and plays and all kinds of stuff going on. Then we get to the 1700s, which is where slapstick comedy begins in Italy. We'll talk more about that later, what that is. In 1768, Philip Astley's circus clowns in London start, so this was the first time that clowns were used in the circus. And they used dancing dogs, and they used horses for a lot of their acts and things like that. In 1890, cinema started using clowns, so this is black and white pictures, no talking, silent films kind of stuff. They started using more clowns, and then we start working into our modern day clowns. So tramp clown, which we'll talk more about later, but it's a stereotype of homeless people. From the 1950s to the 1960s, there were blackface clowns, which became increasingly popular because this was during the time of the Civil Rights Movement. So a lot of that was in backlash to desegregating things. White people would dress up as black people, as clowns. And then in 1988, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, the movie, starts the creepy clown culture in media. So at this time, Stephen King's novel, It had already been released during this decade. However, this was the first movie to really incite the sphere of scary clowns. And we are actually going to watch the trailer.
It was a night like any other night. Then something happened. You see that? Something different. It's the shooting star. Why here? Why now? Why clowns? They've been knocking dead all over the universe.
What are you gonna do? Knock my block off?
Soon they'll be doing it at a theater near you.
Killer clowns from outer space.
Maybe they're just cruising through the galaxy and stopped here for a bite to eat.
You need a police bill, you need a psychiatrist. You wanna play games? You're messing with the wrong guy. What are you in for?
Killer clowns from outer space. It's crazy.
That was good old animation from 1988. This is probably more of a comedy now than it was then, simply because we've gotten a little better with making movies. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about is the types of clowns. How many types of clowns do you guys think there are?
3.
3? 12? clown we have is the August clown. So this one has a red face actually. I could not find a picture of one that was good enough for a presentation. But they typically have a red face, and they're usually the recipient or the butt of the joke. So when they perform in pairs, you will have one clown that will perform the joke and the other one that gets the joke performed on them. So i.e. they will be the one to get squirted with the flour, they'll get pied in the face, so on and so forth. The next one we have is blackface, which I talked about a little bit about this one earlier, but it was used as a racial stereotype during the Civil Rights Movement. It was also used before that time, however it wasn't necessarily used in such a bad sense up until recently. But it was when a white person would paint themselves black. Usually, traditionally, they would leave white space between their lips and their face, and then their lips would be very red. The next one we have is the buffoon or the buffoon, and it is a mockery. This is the original form of the jester, and they are well known because they have so much padding in their stomach and their butt, which was part of the joke. This guy looks a little scarier than some of the other pictures that I found. But for the most part, they were a comedic thing. They were not intentioned to be scary in any way. The next one we have is a harlequin or a Harley Quinn. And they are known from their checkered costume, and this starts to be whenever we start seeing the crazy cats with jesters. But they were known as a trickster, so they would perform a lot of pranks on people that would be in the view of the king, and the king would laugh about it. Next, we have the jester, which came from the harlequin. And they were purely for entertainment and comedic purposes only. That was their entire thing that they did. And usually it was people with mental illnesses and things that we would recognize now today as somebody that would need assistance, but at the time, if you had a weird deformity or you were just different in some way, you would become some kind of clown for some royal party somewhere. But they were known for singing, storytelling, acrobatics, juggling, telling jokes, and doing magic. They became popular during medieval times, and they were used throughout the Renaissance. Their traditional costume is recognized by the eccentric hats on their head. So they have the pointed hats here, and then they also had the skirts that were stripped up, and they had the bells on them. So your typical jester that you would think of. The next one we have is the mime, which I don't know about you, but I always think of France when I think of mimes. Traditionally, they did not have their faces painted. They just had a regular face and just extra makeup on. But they do storytelling with their body performance, and oftentimes they have to embellish their stories to make them more entertaining. I don't know if any of you have ever tried to do this, but tell a story without speaking, tell a full story, and see how well you've told the story. But they do it quite well. The next one we have is the Perrault. It is also known as sad face, so they're usually painted in all white and have a black cap on, and most of their stories are that they're very sad, and people make fun of how they're very sad, and everything is just so dreary. And they're also used as part of the butt of the joke. Next we have the rodeo clowns, which is a very common thing in Texas. But they were used for comedic relief during rodeos. So whenever injuries would arise or whenever they had time to just waste before somebody else would get on their bull, I guess. I've never been to a rodeo. And go out and try not to fall off, then these guys would make a lot of jokes. So they're typically dressed up in some kind of cowboy attire, and they have a clown face. Pretty easy. This is a tramp clown, also known as a hobo clown. I talked about this one a little bit earlier. This one started getting popular in the 1930s. But traditionally they have a greased beard and some kind of tattered or patched clothes, so their clothes don't really go together. And they're stereotyped from the homeless, but they also have this Murphy Laws type aspect on them. Nothing can go right for them. And that is part of what their joke is that they just can't seem to do anything right, nothing's working for them. All of their jokes go bad, stuff like that. So down on their luck kind of a fashion. And then we have whiteface, which is the most common one, which is what Pennywise is based off of. And so typically when done in pairs, you would have a white-faced clown and a red-faced clown like the August. And the white-faced clown would be the one leading the performance. So anytime there is a group of clowns, if one has a white face, they're typically the leader. But it's the most commonly known type of clown, and they're known for a white face and their colorfully patterned clothes. All right. Now we're going to talk about painted faces in pop culture. Not all of them are scary, but they'll get scarier as we go. Just so everybody is warned. All right, so the first one we have is The Simpsons' Krusty the Clown. So while he is not a scary clown, he is not the most appropriate clown. He is known for drinking, smoking, his laziness, his pornography habit, so on and so forth. So this is a very well-known clown. He has a fear factor of 0 out of 10. He's mostly just funny and inappropriate. Next we have Jack in the Box, which actually has his own Wikipedia page, and I found out that he's married, has a kid, obviously sells delicious food, and he has a human body. Again, a fear factor of 0 out of 10. He's just a well-known face. Next we have Ronald McDonald, everybody's favorite clown from when they were a kid. He is known for being fun and playful, and his job is just to sell cheeseburgers and chicken nuggets. I do think he's a little scarier than some of the other ones, so I gave him a fear factor of 2 out of 10. He has his moments. Next we have Bozo the Clown, which comes with another video. So in 1966 there was a TV show about a singing, dancing, and game-playing clown. Think about Ellen, but in clown form and tailored towards kids. Same thing. I gave him a fear factor of 4 out of 10 after having watched one of his shows on YouTube. He's a little scary. Though at the time we did not have the stigma of scary clowns, so everybody really enjoyed him. And we're gonna watch just a couple seconds of one of his shows.
Introducing Bozo, the world's most famous clown.
Alright, so that was Bozo the Clown. Josh, you still doing alright? He wasn't as scary, was he? He was singing.
I thought he was scary.
You thought he was scary? Alright. They do get a little scary after this one, so this one had a fear factor of 4 out of 10. Josh, hold on to your seat, don't fall out, it's gonna be alright. We're here with you. Next we have Batman's the Joker, which was both played by Jared Leto in the new one and Heath Ledger in the one from a few years back. He's known for a villain. He's known for his Glasgow smile, which is where he cut his mouth open from ear to ear so that he would always be smiling. And oftentimes he's seen committing crimes or trying to kill the Bat. I did give him a fear factor of 8 out of 10. I think that Heath Ledger's version of the Joker was definitely scarier than Jared Leto's. And I guess Heath Ledger thought so too, because he did kill himself after playing this role. He was a actor that really took a lot into his roles, and he put everything into this one.
That's the one that's cool. That's the only clown I think is cool.
The only clown.
I'm not scared of that Joker, the Joker. Silly excuse.
Alright, so the next one we have is American Horror Story's freak show clown Twisty. Actually, American Horror Story has several clowns, but this is the scariest one that I thought. I have seen American Horror Story, and I do agree with this. Alright, so he is dressed as a clown due to his disfigurement. So he tried to commit suicide and shot himself with a shotgun and ended up simply just breaking his jaw. So now he kills people, and a lot of the times he'll cut off the face of his victims, or he'll take pieces of their mouth and such to create his mask. He has a fear factor of 10 out of 10. He's a pretty scary guy. We only have one clown left. Can anybody guess what it is? Josh, get ready. Next we have Pennywise from It. So this is from Stephen King's novel It. It is about a clown that kills people. But it is a shape-shifting, teleporting, telekinetic, and telepathic clown. I didn't know it had all of those things. I've never seen the entire movie. But it lives in the sewer and it feeds off of children's fear. And the original one was played by Tim Curry. And the recent one from 2018 was played by Bill Skarsgård. Everybody recognizes the red balloon and the yellow coat. Everybody knows that is from It. And he has a fear factor of 1,000 out of 10. I feel that is highly appropriate. Alright, next we're going to talk about real life clowns. These ones aren't scary, it's okay. Well, one of them is, but it's alright. Alright, the first one we have is Joseph Grimaldi. So he is known as the father of modern clowning. He was the first one, at least given the title of wearing the white face paint. So he looks like your typical clown. He was famous in England during the 1800s. Next we have Grock, who was the king of clowns. He was performed by a Swiss named Charles Adrian Wetach in 1903. And he is known for his acrobatic and musical skills, and unlike other clowns, he actually performed in concert halls. He did a lot of musical instrument, piano playing kind of stuff. So he was a classy clown, if you will. Next we have Oleg Pepov, who was known as the Sunshine Clown, and he was from the Moscow Circus Clown. He actually was not originally famous. He was the backup clown, and then the original clown got injured during a performance. So in 1956, they put him on stage, and he became the lead clown and the best known clown in the Soviet Union. And that is part of why they call him the Sunshine Clown. In addition to, he just has a very positive character, and he's very optimistic. Next, we have Emmett Kelly, who was Weary Willie, and he is what you would call a hobo or a tramp clown, like we discussed earlier. So he's known for being sad and tragic. And his best known skit is him trying to sweep a spotlight away, and the spotlight grows and gets smaller as he sweeps it, and then he hits it with the broom and it gets really big again, and then slowly he ends up sweeping it under a rug. If you want to watch it on YouTube, it's actually pretty entertaining. It's a couple minutes long. And the last one we have is John Wayne Gacy. This is the scary one. So he was a murderer from the 1970s. He killed 33 boys and young men in Chicago. And the reason that he's listed on this is because his day job was that he performed as a clown at charity events. His clown name was Pogo. And he was caught in the 1980s, and he was executed by lethal injection in 1994. So he is a scary clown. However, he did not dress up as a clown to kill people. So that is good. Alright, so now we're going to talk about clown sightings, a horror story. How many of you remember back in 2016, whenever people would start reporting that there were just clowns hanging around in scary places in the neighborhood? Yes. Alright, so 2K16 clown scared. Scary clowns were sighted in ominous places in various U.S. cities, as well as 18 other countries. The first sighting was in North Carolina by a 9-year-old boy who told his mom that 2 clowns had tried to lure him into the woods. It also has a very dedicated Wikipedia page that has all of the instances that this happened from all over the world, including all of the U.S. instances, which had the most, and then all of the other 18 countries that were involved. Here are some pictures from that. So this person was driving down the road, and a clown stepped out, and I guess they decided to get out of the car and try to fight him rather than just run him over. Probably not somebody you want to take with you when you have to go to a clown fight. The next person we have meets a clown in a hallway. Again, I would take him with you. He apparently doesn't know to run away. And the last one we have is somebody's doorbell, where it shows that there's a clown on their porch stealing a pumpkin, it looks like. Alright, so the results from this are that Ronald McDonald has taken a lower profile since then, so I don't know if you've noticed, but he hasn't been in a lot of commercials, and you haven't seen him a whole lot since 2016. In Russia and in England, they warned citizens that they would arrest them if they partook in the trend. In New Zealand, they pulled all of their clown costumes and such from shelves. Target actually took all of the clown costumes and anything that you could use to associate a clown costume off of their website as well as out of their stores. And then in New Brunswick, which is in New Jersey, residents were asked to not dress as clowns on Halloween by police officers. And then professional clowns actually protested all over the world because it was hurting their business having all of these people dressed as these scary clowns and with the purpose of trying to scare people. It was making them harder. It was making it harder for them to be able to get people to come to their shows, which then interrupted their livelihood and so on and so forth. And here's actually a picture from a protest in Brazil. So they got all of their pretty colorful clown costume stuff together, and they went and marched the streets in Brazil. Alright, then we come to Halloween 2016. So there were reports that there was going to be a clown purge or attack, similar to the Purge movies. This didn't actually happen, however, there was a family in Florida that was attacked by approximately 20 individuals dressed as clowns. No arrests were made and no other attacks were reported, but apparently everything crazy happens in Florida, so I'm not necessarily surprised that that's where it happened. Alright, the last thing we're gonna talk about is phobias, one of which I feel like Josh probably has the most of. Alright, coulrophobia, which means a persistent and irrational fear of clowns. Apparently they think you're irrational. We'll talk about how you feel about that later. A study conducted by a hospital in the United Kingdom showed that decorating a children's ward with images of clowns actually backfired, with more than 250 children in age groups from 4 to 16 reported disliking the images. That is a recent trend. So in 2018, after the movie It came out, they did a survey, and it has projected that about 43% of Americans have a fear of clowns. Though at varying stages. Not everybody is to the extent of Josh. Some of them are scared like Noelle is. Some of them aren't scared at all. In fact, 57% of the American population is more like Cottrell. Are you scared yet? Did we get you?